When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Hi, I'm Chad. I'm a Gen X grown-up. I support Gen X GrownUp through Patreon, and you can too at patreon.com/GenXGrownUp.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown-up?
Gen X Grown Up is a YouTube channel, website, and audio podcast you're listening to right now. All made for and by people who love exploring media, games, tech, and toys of yesterday and today through the eyes of Gen Xers who refuse to grow up.
Your dinner cannot just be french fries. Basically, life sucks as a grown-up.
Welcome back, Gen X Grown Up podcast listener, to this Backtrack edition of the Gen X Grown Up podcast. I'm John. Joining me, as always, of course, is George. How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Would not be a show without Mo. Hey, Mo.
Hey, everybody.
Can you believe it's been 40 years since Marty McFly first revved up the DeLorean and blasted his way into pop culture history? In this Backtrack, we're firing up the flux capacitor to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future. Now, whether you're a longtime fan or a first-time traveler, buckle up, because where we're going, we don't need roads.
Oh, God.
I had to throw that in there. You had to, right? You had to have puns. There are all kinds of Back to the Future puns we could be using. We were talking before we started up recording for this episode. We're like, let's just stop because we have so much to say about it. Make sure we just catch it all in the recording. But this is so close to so many Gen Xers, and I'm sure we're going to get into all that. There's so much to talk about with Back to the Future. It's such a good film. But before we get there, it's time to dip in the mailbag for some fourth listener email. And our fourth listener this time around is Craig R., who dropped us a line with a subject line, phones. All right. So here's what Craig has to say. Hey, fellas. Love all of your shows, but today I'm writing about your episode on phones. It's always great hearing the differences of our experiences based on where you live. In my small town, up until like 1992, all you had to do was dial the last 4 digits of the number when calling people in town.
Wow.
We talked about like the 2-digit prefix, but this is just the bottom 4 is like all I needed. Wow. I remember people being miffed that they had to now dial the extra 3 numbers. He says the portable phone was a game changer when my family finally got one. Being able to walk around the house while, when he says portable phone, he means like wireless in the house.
Wireless,
okay,
yeah.
not portable
Cellular,
phone.
yeah.
Yeah, not cellular. Being able to walk around the house while chatting was huge. One of the 900 number categories you didn't touch on were the video game tip hotlines.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember a buddy and I had to call one because we were stuck on one part in a PlayStation game called D. We're a couple years out of high school at that point. Okay, I remember D, but I didn't know. I remember Nintendo had the tip lines you could call, but I didn't know they were. I think theirs was an 800 number. It was the other ones were for pay, the 900 numbers maybe. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Anyway, nowadays there would be a dozen walkthrough videos on YouTube to the whole game, but for him he had to call the 900 numbers. He says, my final anecdote, the same buddy and I called a psychic hotline as well. The one we called was something like $5 for the first 5 minutes, then $2.99 a minute after. It was just general fluff until the 5 minutes started to come to an end, and then she was building up about a major life event coming. Understanding the ruse, we stopped the call at 5 minutes. Wow, discipline. Well done. Thanks for the content. It's one of the shows I look forward to every week. You guys are a tad older than me, so there have been some things I first heard about from your show. Is Gen X Grown Up an educational show? He says. Perish the thought. No. He wraps it up saying, thanks again, Craig. Yeah. Thank you, Craig. Yeah. I had a good time talking about the phones on that one. And we were going back to all the 900 numbers and stuff like you said, but I had not thought of the tip lines. I remember those now that Craig mentions it. But so Craig, you educated us, it turned out, the other way around. So thanks for writing in. We love it every time the fourth listener drops us a line. If you would like your email feature here on the show, it's drop dead easy. Just hit us up at podcast@GenXGrownUp.com. We read every single one. And most of them, like Craig's, will eventually make the show. Okay?
Cool.
With that good business behind us, let's jump into the body of this backtrack on Back to the Future right after this quick break.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
You're listening to Gen X Grown Up. But if you have a friend who's not yet listening, why not? Tell them about us. They'll thank you later.
He doesn't know it yet, but he's about to become the world's first time traveler.
This is nuts.
Back to when his mother was a teenager looking for love.
It's an absolute dream.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Back to when his father needed a little push.
I'm your density. It was a wonder I was even born.
Meet Marty McFly, the first kid ever to get into trouble before he was even born. Steven Spielberg presents a Robert Zemeckis film, Back to the Future. Rated PG. Now at select theaters. Check newspapers.
I cannot believe this came out 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Back to the Future, it still seems just so present in my mind because I remember it so well. 40 years just seems like a really, really long time. Actually, the actual anniversary was July 3rd, 1985.
Yeah. As you said, just having rewatched it, it doesn't feel, like sometimes you watch an old show or a movie and there's like a pacing problem or there's editing, like it feels sluggish. And this movie just pops along and it doesn't feel that old. It was ahead of its years in terms of just like film structure. And yet another thing that I almost spilled at the beginning before we started recording is, and I'm going to mention the last week as we were teasing this episode, is as I go back and watch this, there are not many movies I consider perfect movies, but Back to the Future is so close. And I'd like to open up the floor for debate. Does anybody else feel it's not that good or it's not? Is it just me? Look at the rose-colored glasses. What is it about that film that it just feels so good?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't know if it's perfect, but it's damn near close, in my opinion. Nothing about it. I said I just recently rewatched it to prepare for the show as well. And me and my wife, we just sat and watched it beginning to end. Like it was just like we watched a brand new movie today. We watched the whole thing, paid attention through the whole thing. And even at the end scene still got my heart pumping, it still has it. And
you
just
know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen. But the music and the build up and I don't know, everything on it, they just timed everything so well and the writing was so good on it. I just think it's a great movie.
And everything that happens pays off. There's all these little breadcrumbs that are left, with Uncle Joey in prison. And then you see Uncle Joey later. There's all these little pieces that pay off over time that nothing feels wasted or throwaway. It all factors in. And it's why we revere it so much today, I think, because it felt so good then and continues to feel so good. And it wasn't just feelings, it was a huge financial success too.
Yeah. So the budget on the film was $19 million, and in the domestic box office, or maybe even the box office worldwide, I'm not sure, it did $388 million. So
wow.
I think they did okay. They probably made a little bit of cash. So
holy crap, that's on a $20 million investment.
Yeah,
they almost got $400 million out of it. Holy crap.
Yeah, I did a little research on this, and Bob Gale, the writer, he said he came up with the idea when he was looking through his old high school yearbook, and he had the thought like, oh, what would be like to go back to those times? And then he said he met with Zemeckis, and they basically had, cracks me up, these are the 3 high-level basic ideas they had for the movie.
Okay.
High school kid gets sent back in time.
Sure.
He meets his parents. His mother falls in love with him. And then from that, they built the whole rest of the movie.
That pans out. Now, so in your list of trivia too, there are little things like, now, we're going to talk about in a minute in the casting that Marty wasn't even always the same Marty. Someone else started as Marty, but initially in the opening script, Marty was named McDermott. Now, can you imagine how uninteresting it would have been to Biff slap him on the head? McDermott. There's something about McFly that's just kind of demeaning that allows the bullies' taunts to kind of get in there a little bit. And there were other things that I've learned that changed from the initial thing. So going back to the 50s, like we now know, I think we can do spoilers 40 years later. We now know the way that that Marty gets back to the future, or the present in our case, is that they know when the clock tower lightning's going to hit it and they can harness that energy. But otherwise, before that, they were saying, how are we going to get 1.2 gigawatts of energy? Well, there was going to be a nuclear test site near the town, and they were going to harness the power of a nuclear blast to get the 1.2 gigawatts, which, I mean, it makes great sense in hindsight before you're building out. But the way the clock tower factored in was so much smarter, because his girlfriend wrote "I love you" on the back of it. That's why he had the flyer. That's why I knew the exact time. It was a clock, so they knew the time the clock stopped. It was so much more informed and so much better in terms of like layering to the story. I love that they ended up going, oh, let's go with something that's in the town, that's an event you can pin down. And they laced it throughout the narrative.
They also had a thing where it was supposed to be an actual time machine rather than a car. The DeLorean was
DeLorean.
Before it was a DeLorean. But the issue they had was that, one, they said that time machines don't move really, except through time. And the fact that when they switched it to DeLorean, they said that really helped move a lot of the script forward, because they could get him from place A to B in this time machine without going through time.
Because he has a car. Yeah.
Because he has a car.
Well, piece of crap car that rarely starts, but if he had a car.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
There's a lot of little interesting, weird factoids that would have changed the movie that we know and love today. But probably one of the most unusual ones is that Doc Brown, who has dog, right? Einstein, and Einstein goes on the first time travel trip, right? As part of the thing in the parking lot. But it wasn't supposed to be a dog originally. It was going to be a chimp, which I'm really glad that wasn't the case, because that would have been too many competing things on screen. Like, the dog it's nice to have, but it's also passive. It's kind of in the background. It doesn't take as much away from the scene with Marty and Doc Brown there. So if you'd have had a chimp doing all the, is he going to push the stick shift? Is that why you need him in there? Because he's going to put it into high gear or something? I'm glad that they did the remote control with the dog in the car. I think that played out much better, especially even the opening scene with all the clocks and the little Rube Goldberg machine to feed the dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and plus there's like I guess it fits with Doc Brown that he might have a chimp. Okay. He's this weird eccentric, but also, when you go back to 55, you get to see Einstein as a puppy, right? Now, it's weird that he's lived that long. He must be an old dog.
30 years.
Or maybe it's an ancestor. Maybe it's Einstein's mother or something. But you get to see he's had this puppy, or at least the lineage of this puppy, his whole life. So it's another thing that they could use to show the passage of time. He had a dog, now he had a puppy. And two, I got to mention how I had forgotten how they changed people's makeup to put them out of time. And so I always think of Doc Brown as being an old guy, but he was made to look old in the beginning so he could look normal when he's in the 55s. And it's that kind of thing that, again, layers in to show that passage of time.
There was a part where they said the original title, or somebody wanted to change the title from Back to the Future to Spaceman from Pluto, believe it or not. And I don't know if this is true or not, but the rumor is that Spielberg, because he was kind of involved in the movie as well at that point.
Yep.
He replied back to the person who made the recommendation and said, "Oh man, thank you. We needed the laugh. What was the real title you wanted it to?" And he said the guy never responded back, so they kind of went with the title.
He felt the burn, didn't he? He's like, "Oh, that was not well received. Don't let that one go."
Yeah, but the thing is, the script was rejected 44 times. I can't believe that.
Wouldn't it be interesting? Can you? Really? Would it be interesting to look at one of the early scripts and see why?
Yeah.
Because maybe it was to get it to this point. Why do you say you could see it, George?
Well, think about it. Okay, so we accept Back to the Future as a staple of our Gen X movie-going youth. Before Back to the Future, how many stories like that did you see in cinema?
Good point. That's a very good point.
None.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the first of its kind when you talk about a person going back in time, not just altering the past. Most of the time, it was a serious docu thing. Like if somebody went back in time, they altered something in the past that devastated humanity.
Right.
Right.
This just took him and his family out because he fell in love with his mom, or vice versa.
Very small, right? Small impact, right?
Yeah. So the fact that you could do it in a comedy setting with a time travel movie, that I don't think you saw that very often. Certainly not before Back to the Future. Now, since then, it's kind of a key dynamic in a lot of time travel stuff. Everything you see, I mean, if there's time travel, they're going to have some funny elements to it. I just think that Hollywood is very narrow-minded. If it didn't work before, they don't like to approve it now.
I see what you're saying. Like they probably had to keep revising it because they were gun shy about spending $20 million on this untested kind of concept for a story. Yeah.
And I don't know how much of a household name Zemeckis even was at that point.
I think it was early in his career for sure. I think.
Yeah, 85. So, well, he wasn't brand new, but he certainly wasn't. He wasn't.
I don't know
Bob
how
Zemeckis,
bankable he was.
Powerhouse.
Back to the Future certainly made him bankable.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there are other little nuggets in there that the script and probably all those rejections are what allowed them to fine tune the script and make it feel so good as I described. Things like the reason he went back to 1955 wasn't because that was where they were planning to go. He's in the car and he's just punching in numbers and like, oh, what a coincidence. That's the day I learned about time travel. Oh, kind of reminisce. And then that just happens to be what it's set on when Marty is running from the Libyans. And so he accidentally goes back there, but it all works out so well. So maybe if it only been rejected or never rejected, only had to script provisions, we might not have had this tight story that we have now that not only carried a movie, but carried a franchise moving forward. It was so well built.
It's amazing that they somehow did all this stuff and none of it felt contrived. And it so easily could have. Yeah. Okay, so we talked kind of about the origin of this film and where it came from and our thoughts on it. When we get back from this quick break, we're going to talk about all of the talent that brought this thing to the screen. And a lot of them some of them you might not know. Some cameos are in there. Stick around. We'll be right back.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Spotify. That's greenlight.com/Spotify.
Be sure to subscribe to or follow Gen X Grown Up wherever you listen. And while you're there, rate and review the show too. It helps more than you know.
Dr. Emmett L. Brown here. Through the wonder of video spectronomy, I'm recording an amazing phenomenon. McDonald's Back to the Future Hamburger Happy Meal for $1.99. Analysis shows it comes with one of 4 toys, like Marty McFly, some old guy in my DeLorean. Holy bovine, is he familiar. Switching to X-ray mode reveals 1 toy each week when you buy your kids a $1.99 McDonald's Happy Meal. Perhaps I should forgo further documentations and just have lunch.
What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
As we often like to do when we're talking about a TV show or a movie, we like to go over the talent that was involved in making that thing come to life for us. And in this case, I think it's stupid if we don't start off with Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly. He's essentially the main character throughout the entire franchise, along with Doc Brown as his cohort kind of counterpart. It's almost like he's Batman and Doc Brown is Robin, but they're both bumbling idiots. It's kind of funny. But of course, Michael J. Fox, who was super big during the mid 80s, he's got Family Ties going. And there was a lot of controversy around Family Ties in this movie because he couldn't negotiate all the time. So they had to fly him in and out. And the guy was exhausted, working 24 hours a day at some points. So a tremendous effort. But what's funnier still, and a lot of fans of this movie probably know, he was not the original Marty McFly. So the original concerns around shooting schedules and stuff like that weren't even present because Eric Stoltz, who they did film some scenes with, was supposed to be Marty McFly. And I love Eric Stoltz, but he's no Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. Now, 2 things you mentioned there that I want to make sure I commented on, and you touched on one of them, how he was working Family Ties, and maybe you saw the documentary, there was a Michael J. Fox documentary, and they have animatics showing like what his day was like, and he would get picked up by his private car and driven here and costume change on the way. you're so popular, you have to have a special caravan to get you between two different things you're working on. But I remember also hearing stories about when they had to announce to the crew that they'd recast Marty and that Eric Stoltz was out, because a lot of the stuff they had shot, and some of the first things they shot was the stuff at the Twin Pines Mall at the beginning of the film, and they'd done the car reveal
some stuff
and all
in
that.
the high school. Yeah.
Yes. And so that footage is extant. You can still find it out there. There's still that early stuff and his screen test and early scenes. And you can imagine this was a big movie, and people were like, oh no, we're changing gears. And that means, is this on the rocks? Is it not going to go well? And I've heard Christopher Lloyd say there was a tone change when Michael J. Fox joined the set. Like, now the movie feels like something that's special. Again, not taking away from Eric Stoltz. He just wasn't right for this role, maybe.
Right.
So I think ultimately it was the right decision, even though I'm sure it hurt some feelings at the time. I can't imagine being that poor guy and saying, oh, you're not right for the film. Like, ouch. But
it would not have been the film or the franchise that it was.
Oh,
had Eric Stoltz been in the role.
Different
You can
tone.
look at him in some other great roles. Of course, Pulp Fiction, he was in a little role. He was in Some Kind of Wonderful. He's been in a lot of different stuff. He's not a Marty McFly.
No.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, so someone that was his character from the first moment I saw him on screen, I bet there was never any question about getting rid of him, was Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown.
Yeah.
He's this eccentric inventor who made the time machine. And you mentioned a second ago his Rube Goldberg clocks and everything at the beginning, and you have like, what's going on? This intricate thing is just to open a can of dog food and dump it. And Einstein wasn't even there because he's out with Doc Brown anyway. But he's a weird guy, and a weird relationship to have this old guy and this high school kid that are best friends somehow. And it doesn't quite, but they don't address that at all. Like, they're just great friends, whether they're related somehow or whatever. They clearly have a respect for one another. And Doc Brown, he employs, I don't mean financially necessarily, but he employs Marty to be like his eyes and ears into his experiments. Hey, did you stop by the house? Is this still there? Bring the recorder. We got to document this and everything. And something that I didn't really feel until this most recent rewatch is the excitement that he has at the beginning of the film. This is the edge of his life's work coming to fruition. The time machine he thinks is finally going to work. And he's about to put the dog through it and try it. And you got to remember, the first time we see it is not the same as the second time we see it, because the second time through, he knows it works all his life, and he's waiting until he gets to that time of his life to do it. But he just so epitomizes somehow being like respectful, being kind of crazy, being a genius. And illustrated best when he's every time in any of the films when he's put together a model and he's like, you have to forgive me, it's not to scale, I have time to paint it or anything. And it's this intricate model that has all these pieces, and it's so, it's accurate. He's just this kook that you love and is so good-hearted, and gave up almost everything at the end of the film to save this kid who he knows he's the one that sent back. So he becomes maybe the hero of the film, maybe more than Marty in some case.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And you also can't think of the other people in the cast that played such a big part, like Leah Thompson, who played his mom. Now, she had to play his mom, current mom, and young mom. Like, they're the same actress. And Leah Thompson
and different current mom later. She had 3 different versions to play.
And as and she was like in a bunch of 80s big hits, Some Kind of Wonderful. She was, I mean, Red Dawn she was in. I mean, she was like a pretty hot commodity back then.
This was only her 6th film, by the way.
Really? I did not know that.
Is that right?
This was number 6 in her film franchise. So if you think about that, she's playing this dual role.
Yeah.
Older mother, younger mother, right? She pulled it off flawlessly.
Yeah,
wonderfully.
As much as any of the other experienced people on set. I don't know who to attribute that to, her or the director, the writers, or all combination. But yeah, for her 6th film, she knocked this out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's plenty of credit to go around. It was so well done.
Yeah.
The other half of that parenting duo in this film is played by Crispin Glover as George McFly. He's the awkward, nerdy father who's always getting bullied by a character we're going to talk about next, and I'm sure everybody can figure out who that is. But Crispin Glover, he brought an awkwardness to the role that I don't know anybody else in that time frame could have brought, even though, and I'm going to, get outside of this film just a little bit. We know in Back to the Futures 2 and 3, Crispin Glover's not there.
Right. They've been cast.
It's somebody made up to look like him, and there's a big lawsuit over likeness rights and everything. And Crispin Glover has had a very weird and strange Hollywood reputation ever since.
Yeah.
But in this one film where he does play George McFly in a large portion of the movie, he embodies that character so well that, to be honest with you, I don't know that he wasn't just playing himself.
I know what you mean.
You're right, George. There's something about, as I learned more about, like when I was a kid and saw this movie, I didn't know actors from any, I knew who Marty McFly, sorry. I knew Michael J. Fox was. But I really didn't even know Christopher Lloyd, that well. I'm like, he looks familiar, but learning about him, he's such a weird, eclectic kind of the man, Crispin Glover. He's so like the stories of being hard to work with and being so awkward in terms of communication and stuff. But every time he was on screen in this, I am captivated because there's something like you feel, maybe it is just him. Yeah. You feel like at any moment he could go in any direction. He just seems so out of his own head sometimes and fumbling around, and his physical humor, I think, is genius, and the way he overreacts everything. To the point that not having him in the later ones, it just felt like it wasn't that character anymore. It's almost like Lorraine had remarried almost. Is kind of how it felt. And they were just kind of doing lip service because he was fascinating in this role.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how true this is, but they said that he was just very difficult to work with. It's in general.
I've heard. Yeah.
That's been his reputation ever since this movie.
Oh, it has. And that's why they basically kind of said that, he's just not worth the effort kind of thing. Like, I mean, as good a role he did, they said it's not worth, they'd rather rewrite the character later to give him a lesser role than to pull him back into this. They said they had to redo takes, they had to redo all this stuff. And he, again, I think he pulled it off so well, maybe because of the type of person he is, but it's not that kind of person that everyone can work with.
George might know this. Wasn't he in a Charlie's Angels movie?
He was.
I thought so.
He was a bad guy in Charlie's Angels movie. Got the same reputation on that film set as well.
Yeah.
And I think, you talk about Crispin Glover, and we're spending a lot of time on him, but there's a reason. I think the best choice he made of any of the characters' characteristics was the laugh.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about that laugh that he does, it's breathy and understated, and it's goes to the character. Like the character is awkward and understated himself and tries to hide under everything because he doesn't want to be noticed by people. And that's the way his laugh was too. So when I watched that movie years and multiple times over and over again, that choice, I have to feel like that he made a conscious decision. Oh, this guy wants to be under the radar. His laugh would not be big and loud and bold. Like the next character we're going to talk about, it would be very silent and understated, but he would still be forced almost against his will to let it out.
I had thought of that before, but that's just another way that illustrates his character and why that choice was, well, you alluded to it. The next one on our list is Biff Tannen in all his incarnations, played by Thomas F. Wilson. And here's another character who, like so many on our list, had to play 3 versions of themselves. So far, we have more coming in later movies, but he had to play the one we knew in 85, and then the younger one, which now he's not de-aged, he was aged with makeup for 85, and then he's the young kid in 55 who's, I guess he's the head of the bullies. He's the main bully. Yeah. He's the guy that his henchmen crowd around. And then he had to play a different version of older Biff when he came back. And this is another character, Thomas F. Wilson, who he's continued to be on the Back to the Future tour circuit and stuff and conventions, and he's very close to it. And when he talks to people about that, he says, well, I was cast as this heavy, but it's a heavy in a lighthearted comedy. And I like the way that he walks the line of being a bully that you could kind of understand. You're not going to get behind him, but there's something likable in him, even though he's not showing it. And that's a hard thing for an actor to do, is to show you something that isn't on the page. But I felt that in his portrayal of that. It's what makes Biff such a strong character. He's not just one note. He has some layers that he's kind of showing.
Just pointing out the same thing about Leah Thompson with this guy, second film ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like he had only ever done one other thing that came out that same year. And this is the role that broke him out to Hollywood, obviously. And he did a lot of other things too. Like John, you and I used to love to play a game on the Amiga called Wing Commander back in the day.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
There was one called Wing Commander Prophecy that had a bunch of interstitial video segments shot. And he was one of the main characters in those. Yeah. I really like this guy. He's done a lot of work since then. Stuff that you might not expect. He was in The Heat, that comedy with Sandra Bullock and I forgot the other comedian actress's name.
Oh, yeah. I've drawn a blank too, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of stuff. He gets a little typecast, but outside of Back to the Future, my favorite 80s film he was ever in was April Fool's Day. I loved that movie.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
was so fun in it.
Melissa McCarthy, by the way, I just got there.
Melissa McCarthy. There you go. Yeah.
I was like, I can't get past it. What is it? Yeah.
At our age, that's the way you have to take the long way around sometimes.
It takes some time.
One of the minor characters who was just, whenever he was on the screen, just kind of took over the scene was James Tolkien as Mr. Strickland, the principal.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he was also like in Top Gun. He was his commanding officer. I don't know if you remember that.
You're slacker.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever any scene he was in, he took over the scene. Like, he was just such a big personality for such a small role. I thought he just did such a great job of just sort of, in a way, he was tying the two times together because he didn't change between the two.
He's in all three films.
Yeah, he's the same person.
Kind of looks the same.
Right.
But, did he ever have hair? They said when he went back to 55.
So I say that was another great job of casting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what really gets me, if you go, we're talking about all the casts, and if you go look at Wikipedia on the Back to the Future page, there's a link that says Back to the Future characters. You click that link, it has all the characters in the Back to the Future franchise, but they're listed by family.
Okay.
Oh. So there's like the
Tannen
McFly family, the Tanner
family,
family, the Strickland family. It just cracks me up that how intricate this whole storyline. We're talking about the first movie, but you can't talk about the others.
Yeah, they're linked.
Can't not talk about the others, I should say.
Yeah.
It's such a great film.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
And they had a lot of like people who were the minor characters and didn't really have to do a whole lot, but you had to see them, but they were important because you saw them change, right? For the most part. Like his brother and sister, like they changed a lot from the time he got back. And that was
Mark. They're in the picture. You had to have his siblings in the picture.
Right. Yeah, the picture.
Fade in
that was
and out,
Mark McClure and Wendy Jo Sperber. I think you pronounced her last name. But that was his brother and sister. And the other interesting is that his girlfriend, Claudia Wells, they actually recast her.
They did
in the second and third movie. Yeah,
that's right.
Second and third films.
Like, any idea why they did that? I have no idea.
Yeah, she couldn't come to terms and she was unavailable.
Double whammy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd heard that too. Yeah. And, I never noticed myself when I went to see the second film because they remade the ending scene from the first one for the beginning of the second one with that actress. So in my mind, it had been a couple of years. So I'm like, oh, it seems fine. It seems a little different, but it seems fine. I know, because I didn't know.
For me, it was a big deal because honestly, I think the first Girlfriend's actress was far better than the Elizabeth Shue actress was. And I love Elizabeth Shue. She's from Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Right. She's been a lot of other stuff that The Boys, a modern, storyline that she's been in.
And it's unfortunate too, because the character had more to do in the sequels. But then we had a different actress available to play. So we did arguably the better actress wasn't available to do the better roles, the better parts, it's too bad.
And the recasting, and because it was Elizabeth Shue who had a big budget for her rate at that point, that's why that character is largely asleep in the second film.
So they don't draw attention to it's a different girl. Yeah.
They just couldn't, they didn't have the budget. I don't know why. I mean, they just made $400 million.
Yeah, right. I think it'd be not a problem.
What are they doing with that money? Somebody's buying jet skis and giving them out. I don't know what's going on.
Zemeckis had to figure out how to shrink people for his next series, I guess.
He did. That's right. Well, speaking of Zemeckis, we just mentioned him briefly, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the director here, Robert Zemeckis, he was the bankable thing after Back to the Future for sure, but he and Bob Gale have worked together to produce this, and it's interesting that this has become such a legacy for him that people keep coming back and saying, Universal says, let's do more. Let's do Back to the Future 4. Let's do a follow-up. And they both just say, they hold this so dear. They're like, what we did was a perfect story. It's done. It's cohesive. To do more would just diminish it.
Right.
And it says something to the integrity of the creators to go, man, that'd make me a lot of money, but I don't need the more money. The art is more important to me. And I've always respected that about him. And I'm one of the people that would be the first in line to see a new Back to the Future movie. But he's probably right. I would come out of it going, grumble, grumble, grumble. They broke some stuff. This is just somebody with foresight to go, I know how special this is. Let's not wreck it and leave it alone. So Bob Zemeckis not only did a great job with the film, but as a steward of the franchise, he's protected it in such a way that has kept it so pristine for us all these decades later.
Yeah, I mean, he went off to do things, Forrest Gump and Contact. I mean, Castaway, he's done a whole bunch of great stuff afterwards, but I agree with you. It's like, I can't see how they could do another movie and just not mess it up.
Well, so the reason why they can't is Zemeckis owns the rights, and he has said there will never be a remake of Back to the Future.
Yeah,
that's good for him.
So, yeah. I want to point out one last one. I know we've gone through all the main talent and everything, but there's one that is near and dear to my heart because I was such a fan during the 80s, and he makes just a blink and you miss it kind of appearance in this film. But there were 2 songs in this movie that were written specifically for the movie by Huey Lewis from Huey Lewis and the News. And of course, that's Back in Time and Power of Love, which was the big
song
breakout hit from the film.
Yeah.
But Huey Lewis himself, part of the whole deal of bringing him in to do these songs, which they wrote very quickly, was getting him a spot in the movie that he really didn't want to do, but Zemeckis kind of talked him into it. Yeah, he really didn't care to be in the film, but they brought him down from San Francisco for the day to shoot this one scene.
He almost isn't. He's behind a megaphone. He's almost not there.
It's where Marty and his band are auditioning for the high school dance, and they're playing the Huey Lewis song as part of their audition, and Huey Lewis, along with a little group of, like, I don't know if they're adults or school attendees or principals or teachers or whatever. They never really go into it, but they're all looking at each other, shaking their heads as Marty's up there playing. And then he just stands up and with the megaphone that John mentioned, sorry guys, you're just too darn loud. And
it had to be years later that somebody told me it was Huey Lewis in there, and I had no idea, but then you see him, you're like, I'll be damned. Yep. And since you mentioned music, we don't have a section for it, but I want to call out the score for this. Now, of course, we have some pop music in there from Huey Lewis and others, but Alan Silvestri, who did that symphonic score for this thing, it's on par with like a John Williams score in my book. It's so iconic, and it's so triumphant, and it's this march, and it's just really just awesome stuff. And so I don't know a lot about Alan Silvestri other than he has a legacy in Hollywood, but his work with Back to the Future is one of those scores that, like a Jaws, like a Star Wars, it's just indelibly burned into Hollywood history for music.
So just one of the random facts. You guys know Billy Zane, the actor? He was
He's one of the 3 henchmen.
This is his first acting role. He's one of the 3 guys that gets manure piled on him in the back of the car.
Almost reminds me of Alfred Molina, how he got killed in the beginning of Raiders, and it was like his first thing on screen. Just a little tiny bit part, and then he later went on to do great things, which is wonderful. So so much talent. I mean, we didn't cover everybody. You can't almost. There's so much in this, but so much. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of our favorite parts and celebrate the storyline of Back to the Future that a lot of it we touched on already, but we're going to expand on it. Stick around.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Each episode of Gen X Grown Up has show notes loaded with links where you can learn more about our topics. And there's even more to see and hear over at GenXGrownUp.com.
Fasten your seatbelts. You're going on a trip.
We're sending you back to the future.
The future is here on video cassette from MCA. Take home the movie that blew America away and drove audiences wild.
An absolute dream.
The hottest thing to come to the screen. Steven Spielberg presents a Robert Zemeckis film. Back to the Future. Now on video and in stores everywhere.
Now, this is the part of the show where we would often talk about like, oh, make sure you understand the story beats of Back to the Future and that kind of thing. It almost seems silly at this point to talk about the story beats of Back to the Future. A, because we've covered many of them going through this. And B, this film is so well known that you're listening to this podcast, you probably know it's about this young man that outlined, here are the plot points, goes back in time, meets his parents, screws up the future, falls in love with, or mom falls in love with him. But there's a facet of this that has become, you hear about, and George, you mentioned time travel movies. Maybe this wasn't the first time travel movie, one of the first that treated it this way in Hollywood. There's a fun to it. There's an adventure to it. But there have been so many more since then. And so I want to take a second to talk about the time travel aspect of Back to the Future. So there are different kinds of time travel. And I even remember in some films, maybe it was an Avengers film, we're like, well, what kind of time travel are we talking about? Is this Terminator time travel or Back to the Future time travel? Or, which one was it, Mo?
It was Endgames because he was hurt. Man was hurt. He's like, you mean Back to the Future lied to me?
Right. So which kind of time travel? And so in this kind of time travel, it's one continuous thing. Right. Often people will go, well, when you go back in time, you don't have to worry because you're creating another fracture off of the timeline. It's another existence that can happen. And then you have like the Terminator where you can jump back in time and affect the future immediately. When in Back to the Future, it kind of somehow affected gradually, like the longer he stayed in the past, it was slowly changing the future. And at this point, as we speak in 2025, as far as we know, time travel is theoretical, unless you're traveling faster than the speed of light, in which case you can only go forward anyway. But this, for me, I want to ask you guys, for me, this was the version of time travel that I always imagined if time travel worked. That you can change little things. You have if you change it wrong, you can kind of go back and tweak it a little bit. Now that it bends a little bit as we go to Back to the Future 2 and 3. But what do you think about the time travel here compared to what you think the real version of time travel might ever be? How does it fit into your head canon? What do you think about it?
I mean, the only thing that got me so much was the whole gradual thing. Like,
it's weird.
Like it would change the future slowly, and
So there's a reason for it.
Oh, I mean, well, otherwise it wouldn't work, right? Because then as soon as he met his mom, it'd be over.
He'd be instantly
gone.
There's a
movie mechanic.
Yeah, there's a ticking clock, right?
No, so he goes back just slightly before the quote inflection point of his mother and his father kissing at the dance.
Yes.
So the slow gradual is him getting closer to that inflection point and having not made that moment right up until that moment. Mm-hmm. That's why they're slowly disappearing, because the closer he gets, the more their existence is fading from his singular timeline.
Okay.
That's why they do that slow gradual fade on the photographs, because you notice they start with who? The oldest brother.
Start with the oldest brother.
And they work their way down.
And then they go to the sister and then to Marty last, because that was the progression of their children's births and everything. Mm-hmm. Not including jailbird Joey, right? The uncle that we see. But the whole reason that they did that slow progression was so that they could build up the anticipation of how he needed to correct this. And he was getting closer and closer to the point where all hope would be lost.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was a brilliant mechanic myself.
Yeah. But how does it compare to your perception of what you think real time travel would be like? Do you think it would build up to an inflection point like that? Or do you think as soon as something was changed, it would instantaneously update? What have you always imagined?
So I always imagined is probably not the right way to say it, because it's as I've gotten older and tried to learn more things, I've changed my mind, of course. But I think if time travel were to be possible, we would probably be living in a more of a multiversal type of thing where all choices are possible and therefore are kind of a Schrodinger's cat kind of situation. It's dead and alive at the same time in the box until you open it. In that case, I think that what you experience would just be what point you traveled to, and the different possibilities and choices you made would fracture off to the different off ramps of the timeline that you knew. I don't think that there would be a mechanic for you to get back to your present.
To yours. Because yours isn't the way you've changed it now. Yeah.
I just feel like the roadmap GPS would get lost in all the different choices and you'd never be able to find your way home.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely hits that whole paradox thing too. It's like, you know, if he went back there and say he didn't sucsucceed, well, then he'd never be born, which means he'd never go back in time and mess it up, right?
Right. That's the problem.
You know, so with Jerson makes, you know, in order for this to work, there would have to be some sort of split off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, then the whole paradox loop thing happens, and what they say in that movie, then you need to get straws and stuff and make maps and diagrams to explain it.
And there's two, like I mentioned before, when Christopher Lloyd, he plays the scene at the Twin Pines Mall, you know, later it changed names, Twin Pines Mall 2 times. The first time through, he does not have foreknowledge that the Libyans are going to shoot him.
Right.
The second time through, he does. But if time travel were all contained in one bubble, whatever was going to happen has already happened, in which case he would have already known the Libyans were coming, because whatever Marty goes back in time to do will have already happened no matter what, which kind of lends itself to that kind of slightly fractured timeline that you're talking about.
But if maybe he did know, which is why he befriended Marty in the first place.
Maybe so. Right?
So that's to make sure, and he saw the videotape, so he knew what he was supposed to say when. So he
Isn't
made
it
sure
great
that
that
he followed
40
that
years
script.
later we can still explore and think about different meanings inside of this film that are so good?
Yeah, God help us if we start talking about Total Recall.
Oh my God.
All right. So let's talk, speaking of how good this movie is, how about some favorite scenes? So when you go through a film like this, it's so difficult to pick a favorite scene.
Mm-hmm.
I did, but just because it was one of 20, really?
It's the assignment.
Yeah, it's the assignment. So George, how about you? Do you have a particular scene or part of the film, Back to the Future, you enjoy the most?
Yeah, I mean, the part of the film that I enjoy the most kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, and it's the Easter eggs that you find in the movie because of the time travel. So like John was just alluding to a second ago, originally when Marty is on his skateboard going to meet Doc Brown in the parking lot of the mall, the sign says Twin Pines Mall. And it's very clear. It's a white lit up sign with a clock on it that's counting down to the time that he has to get back to later on in the movie. But then when he does come back for that second run trying to save Doc Brown from the Libyans, it says Lone Pine Mall. And there were a whole bunch of little things, not just in this film, but throughout the entire franchise, that you get to see those little Easter eggs of
something changed.
When he goes back in time, how things are changed slightly, but not enough to, just like things on the marquee of the theater, right?
Movie,
and
right?
The bum who's outside when he does come back, after the lightning bolt strikes the DeLorean. Just all these little pockets that Zemeckis sprinkles throughout the frame of the camera without calling dramatic attention to, because so many time travel movies do that so blatantly and poorly that it makes it unenjoyable. And they did that mechanic in this film. Whether you like how they do time travel or not is immaterial. The way that they handled the subtle changes that their time travel would incur was brilliant.
Yeah. And I know you know this, George. You're talking around it, but the beauty of that switch from Twin Pine to Lone Pines is because Marty literally runs over one of the two pines, like these two treasured pines. The guy has a fence around, and they make a big deal out of it. And I know you knew that already. You just didn't mention it, but he does it not on purpose. That's the whole butterfly effect. I was just running away in my car. I happened to hit a little tree. Look how that rippled over time. It's beautiful.
Well,
isn't it awesome?
And there's even an allusion to that scene in the parking lot before the Libyans arrive, because Doc Brown is saying, I remember when this was all Peabody's land and he wanted to had this crazy dream about breeding pine trees.
And one got run over, but not yet, right? Hasn't happened yet.
What about you, John? Do you have a favorite scene or part of this movie?
Oh, yeah. It was about 2 hours long, and it ran from the opening to closing credits. Really, but, it's funny. I will mention there's one part that I don't like to rewatch in a film that I consider perfect. There's a part and it's when he goes ham on his guitar solo and is laying on the floor and writhing, trying to shred his guitar.
Kicks the speaker over.
It felt like for someone who was already told to be careful in the past by Doc Brown that he wouldn't go that crazy. It just felt a little out of left field and out of character a little bit. So that it concerns me. It's like, you were making a big crazy stuff. But I know he also spoke about how I'm never going to get to perform in front of people because they turned me down. I know why he wanted to do it, but it seemed out of character at the time.
I don't think that's the motivation there. I took a different part from that scene. That's interesting. Yeah. I feel like that's the euphoria that he felt as he saved himself, because you remember right before that he's collapsing, his hand is disappearing, and then boom, as soon as they kiss, his like reverse film thing where they stand him straight up and he's all rigid and playing a song,
and he can play again.
And then he's living that euphoria. Imagine you were almost out of existence. Your parents kissed. You're back now. That flood of emotion coming out in that guitar solo was how I took that.
Yeah. And I don't think you're wrong. I just feel like he'd been careful up to this point of listening to what Doc Brown said. I think he would have tried to restrain himself a little and not keep going. And maybe that's why he stopped ultimately, but also the crowd.
Yeah, I think he was just drunk.
Yeah.
Drunk with excitement. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the moment. Yeah. That's why I kind of took it too.
That's my favorite part. That's my least favorite part. My favorite part really.
We're talking a long time about your least favorite part.
I know. My favorite part, and it's the part that for me sells the rest of the film. The rest of the film will be worthless. I wouldn't buy into it, except the minute that Marty first walks around 1955, walks around the town, he's stumbling through town, stunned by what he sees. And the way that Michael J. Fox portrays that, just this slack-jawed, and it's not like caricature. He's like, oh my God, this and this, he's so awestruck, realizing not only A, has he genuinely traveled in time, but B, to see his town looking so beautiful and so different and so, it's not a fish out of water, it's water away from the fish. It's a whole different thing. That scene for me, as I was watching it, I'm like, this for me is what sells the believability of the rest of the film. If he hadn't nailed that, I don't think the rest of it would have been as easy for me to suspend disbelief. But I was there with him. He was the character and he saw this new world. And I'm like, if he feels it, I feel it. I'm with you. This is real. You're enjoying it. And that's how he was in that. So I love his first tour around town when he first gets there.
Yeah, he didn't overact it too. Like that could have so easily been a little too much, which would have ruined it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like something crazy. He's just truly stunned and awestruck. Yeah, I love that part about it. So that's my favorite just because of how it makes the rest of the film so good for me, the way it sets it up. So Mo, how about you? Round us out. Can you pick a favorite?
Sure. I mean, you alluded to it earlier, but it's when he gets back to the future.
Okay.
And he's sitting there and like he gets there 10 minutes earlier to save Doc Brown, right?
Yeah. Then the car won't start.
The car won't start. And the reason why I like that whole part is that it almost makes you think there's something else controlling things in a way.
Sure.
It makes you think like there's like a fate
right.
thing. There's
no matter what. Yeah, things are going to happen.
You're not going to be able to do this, And then when he finally gets there and he's like, oh, I'm too late. And Doc Brown sits up and then he says like, what's about all this stuff about messing with the future events and he just says, I figured, what the hell? I mean, it's just like, it was like such a, and he has the taped up. He actually taped the letter back together.
The taped up. Oh, because he ripped it up. And so it's all taped together and yellow.
He tapes it back up together so he knows what,
gorgeous.
And
yep.
When I saw that, I'm like, I can even see him thinking like he saw the video of him getting shot. I mean, he saw the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, okay, if I just get a vest, those events can still happen.
I won't mess it up too much.
But I live, right? But those events can still occur. Right? Nothing changes in that. Again, it's just that and that weird kind of almost creepy feeling I got that something else is controlling everything that's going on.
Yeah. Well, and not for nothing, now everything that Doc Brown does from this point forward is a break in the timeline because he was supposed to be dead. But forget all that.
Yeah,
forget all that.
Who cares?
We only care about the present, not the future.
The future
that's right.
The future
is somebody else's problem.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
If you're a die-hard Gen X grown-up, you can pledge your support by clicking join on YouTube or by becoming a patron at GenXGrownUp.com/Patreon.
Since its introduction, there's never been anything like it. It's been copied and imitated, but nothing can touch it. With a megaton of pulsing power and a mind-blowing overdrive that literally burns up the road. It's the thrill ride that every other ride is measured against, but nothing comes close to Back to the Future at Universal Studios, the ride from the 21st century.
being the 40th anniversary, well, just after the 40th anniversary here earlier this month, it's probably no surprise with all of the praise we've heaped on this film that it has such a lasting legacy. Now, of course, you're going to go, well, sure, there were 2 sequels, John, the Back to the Future 2 and 3 we talked about, which interestingly were shot back to back. They were planned together. They were shot at the same time. I've often criticized the second one because it feels like a 2-hour preview for the third one. I know one of my good friends argues all the time with me. It's the best of the 3. I'm like, I don't know about that. A great series of films. And especially like last episode, you were talking about the Squid Game, Mo, where like the first season was great. The second season was okay. And the third season kind of wrapped it up. I look at the 3 episodes of Back to the Future, I call them episodes or movies, as being the first one is kind of self-contained with a little Easter egg at the end to leave you somewhere. And then 2 and 3 are very much more intertwined as they go, to the future and then far in the past and in the Wild West. And all of those have become baked into, and the reason Zemeckis and Gale say, we're not doing any more of them because those 3 things together are damn near the perfect trilogy. Why would you wreck it by redoing it or adding something to it? And of course, merchandising. Action figures and toys and underoos and, those sorts of things. But one of the big things that I know that we focus on a lot here at GXG is the games. It's been put in so many different games.
Yeah. So the games that I knew it for the most were the pinball machines. So I know it's had a lot of video games and whatnot, Nintendo Entertainment System, Amiga. There was even a Telltale's game in the early life of that production company. But the pinball machines are where my heart kind of lies. So Data East, they were really big in pinball IP stuff in the 80s and 90s. And this one was released in 1990. They also did a RoboCop machine and a few others. But this Back to the Future pinball machine that was Data East, which is now owned by Stern, it's a very, very fun game. I rarely get to see it because people who own the game don't tend to bring it to conventions or sell it very often because it's so popular. What's really interesting, it's got a song in it performed by ZZ Top. So
pinball.
Yeah. It's got the 2 songs by Huey Lewis, but it's also got Double Back from ZZ Top in it. So
very cool.
Pretty cool. And then, of course, Zen Studios has released a virtual pinball version of it as part of their Universal Movies pack back in Pinball FX 3. So the current version is Pinball FX, which is also the name of the first version of the system. But then there was Pinball FX 2, then Pinball FX 3, which is where the Back to the Future table was originally released. So I love those systems. They're a lot of fun. And especially, anytime you get to play pinball about an IP that you love as much as we do, Back to the Future, there's no getting around how good that is.
Another thing, we talk about all the marketing and merchandising. Not surprising. Look, if Rambo can have an animated TV series, certainly Back to the Future can have an animated TV series. and we did. So we had a Back to the Future. Maybe I've seen this once or twice from 91, ran 2 seasons from 91 through 93. Back to the Future animated series that so I think it had I'm looking here, 26 episodes is all it had. So 2 13 episode seasons maybe. It's not all the original sound talent. It's not all the original people, but it's still the Back to the Future created by Gale and Zemeckis. So it was further adventures of Doc and Marty turned into this animated series. And while I want to go back and look at that, I understand there's a more modern animated series that also has its roots in Back to the Future.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Rick and Morty is almost directly from that because the person who created Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland, he made this short before Rick and Morty came out called The Adventures of Doc and Marty, which he was spoofing Back to the Future. And then from there, he just took those 2 characters because in Rick and Morty, there's the doctor, Rick, the mad scientist, teenage sidekick, Morty, which is not far from Marty, as far as even names. And they even said that there was, they did a live action thing of Rick and Morty, and Christopher Lloyd played Doc.
I saw that.
Played that.
Yeah.
Which they said was because they kind of bring the whole thing full circle. But he said the difference is instead of messing with time, they're messing with the multiverse, right? That's kind of the difference between Rick and Morty. But he said that is a direct influence. And without that, then the show probably wouldn't have come out.
And they explore that same kind of odd, why are these 2 guys together? There's a reason, at least in Rick and Morty, right? It's his
grandson,
granduncle, his grandfather,
his grandfather.
Yeah. So there's a reason for it there where there's no reason really in Back to the Future.
You know, another thing that Back to the Future has spawned is a theme park ride, a series of them at a whole bunch of the different Universal parks. So I didn't experience the ride at the original park. It was originally opened in Universal Orlando, Florida. Okay. Oddly enough, living in Florida, I never went to Universal Studios when I was younger. We always went to Disney, but I never got a chance to do Back to the Future, the ride, as it was called. Okay. I didn't get to do it until much later when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, when I had moved out to California and did it at the Hollywood studios with my future wife, Back to the Future wife or whatever. And it only lasted in those two places. Well, only I say so from 91 to 2007 in Orlando, 93 to 2007 in Hollywood. Okay. But then it also had it had a instance in Universal Studios Japan, and that one oddly enough started in 2001 but lasted all the way till 2016.
Wow.
So the Japanese must have really loved the ride. It's a very fun 3D roller coaster simulator kind of ride. You go back and you go through the different parts of the town. Doc Brown is controlling the DeLorean with the remote control. Yeah. It's just a fun ride. I'm really sad that it's gone, but I understand they got to make way for new stuff. But yeah, I kind of wish that was still around.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was most recently, just in the last 2 or 3 years, there was even a live theatrical stage production of Back to the Future.
Wow. Was it good?
Now, of course, yes, it was really. Now, I've not seen it. I know people who have seen it. They have a DeLorean on stage. Now, it's a mock-up DeLorean. But they said we can't do the show without the DeLorean. We need it as part of the integral thing. And it has, with lighting effects and everything, you get the impression of you're traveling through time with a DeLorean. Of course, it's recast. It's a musical to some degree, but it has little twists to the story, but it also follows the story largely. It's effectively a retelling of the first film, to the best of my knowledge. I've asked people not to tell me too much about it because it's one of those that when it tours, I want to see it, and I don't want to be spoiled of it, but it got very good reviews, and it has the blessing of course, the creators, Gale and Zemeckis, which means that they respected a live production and presentation of it, a different angle we can see. So that's one of those things on my bucket list now, that when that thing starts touring, I want to go see it.
Now, I don't know if you guys know Ready Player One, the movie, right?
Of course.
Yeah. The original, when it first came out as a book, the novel, there was actually a hidden game in it. Like a hidden puzzle was in the book.
Oh, really?
And if you won a DeLorean from Back to the Future. He had 2. The author had 2.
Wow.
And if you found it, somebody found it really fast, apparently.
Oh.
But there were clues, and it was only in the printed version of the book. It was the only place he got it. It had something to do with the way the page number. It was like a whole thing.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
It was was a puzzle in the book itself.
Well, that makes sense. That's what that story was about, was finding secrets inside of other creative art. Yeah, man. All right. You guys ready to enter hour 3 of talking about Back to the Future? There's so much more we could say. There's so much more love to heap on it. I thought at least when we're talking planning episodes, being the 40th anniversary, we should devote some time to it. And there's so much more we could say. Maybe we get to 45. We'll talk some more perhaps. But it's a good place to put a pin in. We've talked about Back to the Future. So beloved. Maybe a perfect film. Right up there, certainly. And a Gen X staple, as you said several times, George. So good. Had a great time talking with you guys about it. Before we get out of this episode, I do want to take a second to thank another brand new Patreon supporter who joined us over at patreon.com/GenXGrownUp, Andy G. He did just what we say every episode. If you want to support what we do and make sure we keep doing it, head over to patreon.com/GenXGrownUp. Open up your heart and your wallet. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a supporter of what we do here. You can ask questions directly of us that we'll answer here on the show. It gets you status. It gets you elevated status over in our Discord server, get you a badge and recognition, and you get our heartfelt thanks, of course. So thank you, Andy. You're joining a roster of amazing folks who already support us, and we love that you do. That then will wrap it up for this Backtrack edition of the Gen X Grown Up podcast. Don't worry, we'll have another one coming your way in a couple of weeks and a new standard edition of our show hitting next week. Until then, I am John. George, thank you so much for being here, man.
Yes, sir.
Mo, I appreciate you.
Always fun, man.
Fourth listener, all 3 of us appreciate you most of all, though. We can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Take care, everybody.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown-up?
Gen X Grown Up is a member of the Evergreen Podcast family. Learn more at evergreenpodcasts.com.
No more watching shows till sunrise. Unacceptable for grown-ups. Your dinner cannot just be French fries. Basically, life sucks as a grown-up.
You started with a rear view Back to the Future DeLorean pun and then stopped it.
Oh, then I didn't do the review in the next one? Yeah. Oh, well, let's fix it. Let's fix it right now. George
Jesus
demanded
Christ.
more puns. Let's do it right now.
No, George.
3, 2. With that good business in the rear view mirror of our DeLorean's rear view mirror, let's jump to the body of this Back to the Future backtrack after this quick break.
And executed horribly. Well done.
Yes,
There you go.
why
Two
do a pun if
rear
you're not
view
going to
mirror
screw it up?
Phrases in the same sentence.
Hey, do what you can do.